or something I want to say that I read in a book and I want to get your opinion on. But before I bring that up, I want to ask you, where did the story, we talk about these stories that are like, they have a deeper meaning to them. They're like allegories. We have the Bible. They describe an internal process that's happening inside of us. But the story form allows us to be more connected to it. So they tell us this story form. Where did, and I'm going to be doing more things in story form. I got to call you and tell you about it. I talked to Red and Blue Pill about it. That's a conversation I got to have with you on the phone. But where did the story, Rod, of this genie that grants us 3 wishes? There's a deeper meaning to this genie. We're talking about manifestation. This carpet, Aladdin, this carpet, this genie granting us wishes. That seemed like a hell of a deal. We could get whatever the fuck we want from this genie on this carpet. Where does this come from? What's the deeper meaning behind this story before I go into what I read in this book, Rod?
So in the earth traditions of the tribes of the earth, we have the people that have namesakes, right? That's all of these people that's naming their children after Ra. They naming their children Osiris. They naming their children all these deity names. Those children have the genetic capability, after being programmed by the parent with that name, to download the same frequency of leadership qualities that those people displayed. These stories is designed in order to tell you the type of power if you carry a certain name. In this case, we're talking about the genie, which is the jinn in Islam, which the church wanted to turn into the devils of Islam when they was the totem protectors of those tribes, so that the Catholic Church don't have to worry about them calling on their God to assist them when they can use our God to run away from their God, right? So they polarizing. All of these stories is to make you not use your ancestral power source by villainizing them. But in antiquity, they had a different meaning. If you go to the story of Abraham, Abraham chased down, no, it wasn't Abraham. It was one of Jacob's children had stole the family Tehillim, which was a altar relic that was the family symbol of who the hereditary heir was to the parent. And they tracked them down to recover it. And they talk about it in the Bible. Well, because the person who have the genetics and the relic can call ancestral energies that can give them information on where hidden treasures are, where what type of gambling bets to make in the future, stuff like that brings fortune in the physical realm. So they use those ancestral totems and those ancestral spirit animals, and they tell the story to let you know that once you go back to your own power, that you able to utilize these forces. Then you can't overuse them is where the limit of 3 wishes come from. That's telling you be careful for what you wish for, because you don't want to wish for something and then in 5 years you're going to regret you wish for it. So in making the 3 wishes, you got to always wish for things that's going to be beneficial eternally in that aspect. And the ancestral force you crawl on is represented by the family totem item or relic. In some cases, it was a brass teapot. The teapot becomes synonymous with the air coming from the region. So now you're not looking for a teapot. When you come from the Americas, you're looking for a honey pot because the bees is more relevant. Right. But the story is being the same. You got 3 chances to get it right, or you have to move on to the next thing. Mm-hmm. You can only lose 1 out of the 3. If you lose 2 out of 3, you're done, because there's no chance you're going to recover on the 3rd one. you still lost your two.
Mm-hmm.
So when you making your wish, the story is infused with the contemplation of, if I was going to wish for three things in my life, what three things would they wish for? Right. And the only thing I wish for is my mama, my pops, and my children. And they always with me, because that being my three wishes, we etherically tied forever now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, indeed, Rod. And I asked you that question about manifestation. There's actually two other questions I want to ask you in regards to that. What did you say earlier, Rod, about, you said something about strings and knots can produce matter. What was you talking about again? Just real quick. What was you?
The Higgs boson. We were talking about. We was talking about the Higgs boson being, using the string theory as the reference for people to understand how you get density from the Higgs boson. And the way that I explain it is that the Higgs boson is still an electron, but the light is denser because it's tied in a knot.
Okay, so Rob, with that being said, the light being tied in a knot and then producing matter. When I watch the movie Avatar and you see these advanced beings with the here and locks. Now, if here is an example of etheric filament energy and we put it into locks, does that cause us to be greater manifestors in this realm? We have this etheric energy that's we call it non-ether here, and it's tied where we're tying it in knots. Does that have an effect on our manifestation abilities at all, Rod?
Okay, so first of all, we call them.
Let me preface this, Rod, because there's a group of people. My channel got suspended. Rod was talking about this group of people, and y'all know who I'm talking about, the small hats, and they wish they had locks. They have this little thing on the side. They would, but there's only one group of people that could lock their hair. So I'm trying to figure out the importance of locking your hair and why groups will want to imitate that, and they know they can't lock their hair, Rod. So talk to me, Rod.
Well, you got pale faces that can lock their hair.
Not like, you know what I'm talking about. Bob Marley lock.
But
you know what I'm talking
about. Here's the thing. Let's go back to Medusa.
Yes, please.
Remember they said that her hair moved on her head like snakes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So when they drew her in the caricature, in the cartoon, they gave her snakes for hair instead of the sacred lock.
Indeed.
Right? And from those locks, those snakes would spit electrical sparks. This is telling you the story of being fully realized into who you are. Every part of your body responds to the driver when it's given a function. The dreadlocks of Medusa, as her defense, was capable of accumulating by friction massive amounts of static electricity, and because she could psychically control the movement of her hair, she could direct where each one of the locks slung the static electrical current. Right? And static electricity is still electricity. So they tell it to us in that story. They went from us calling them sacred locks or non-ether locks to them seeing us with them, calling them the dreaded locks. Because when you seen them Mau Mau, you know who the Mau Mau is?
Yeah.
When you seen the Mau Mau, they was led by a general that had the locks. In Jamaica, when they was harassing the natives that would celebrate in their parks, the only thing that they hated is that when they called for the ones with the locks, so they started saying the dreaded locks. So then they became known as dreadlocks.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. Yeah.
Right. And then when they embraced it, right, the ones from up in the mountains of Jamaica embraced the term. They didn't call them dreadlocks no more. They called them the natty dread. Right, which became infused into the culture to tell you the capable spiritual influence that you can download, because your hair is like antenna. And by being in tune with yourself, in tune with nature, your antennas, the longer they are, the more data that they can receive and send to your brain. And all of our hair covers our scalp, which covers our skull, which covers what, Rich?
Brain.
Right. So now all this information is going straight to your head. And you remember what the song say? Don't let it go to your head, no.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Right, because they want to keep us ignorant. But when you go back, let's say for instance, the at different times, by the way you grew your hair, you understood stuff differently, and you never equated it to your hair change until so many years later in retrospect, you was able to identify the change in your understanding by the hairstyle you wore at the time.
Ooh-wee. There you go. Yeah.
Man, yeah, back when I rocked the Gumby, right? That's when I bumped into the guy up on Fifth and 110th Street, and he gave me the science for the day, and I ain't been the same since. I went from the Gumby, I went to the low fade, to the no fade, back to the afro, to the drip natty light. You able to go through your growth by how you attended to your hair, even the women.
Damn, yeah.
You got women like she right now, I can't be who I am. Let me dye my hair. Now she can now this is the way the girl look at it. Now I can let that bitch sit over there and simmer in her shit while I recover over here as this new person.
Right.
That's the chameleon clan. Those are cosmetic legacy of the chameleon clan, who understand to change the appearance of the person is to change the way the person see themselves in the world. And what you change it to determines which manner of character they will perform as, using the ego that they was given.
Y'all heard that? Did y'all hear that? Wow. Did y'all
Please don't
hear
ask
that?
me to repeat it. It
Oh,
sounds like a tongue twister.
Yeah, that was channeled straight through Rod. Rod is, Rod on his radio shit,
Yeah, but that's the science of the chameleon clan.
Yeah.
That's why they got the term chameleon anyway. That's their totem animal.
Right.
And they the ones who always changing their style up very frequently as they become aware of new information.
Right. Yeah. Wow. All right. So Rod, so I was reading the book, right? So, and we about to wind it down. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got 3,000 people tuned in tonight. Shout out to Billy Carson and Terrence Howard was live tonight at 8. I didn't get a chance to see it because I was, getting ready for the show, but I like clicked on it and I heard Terrence mention about the Big Bang, and he was talking about certain things we was talking about tonight. And I'm like, damn, man. He mentioned ether because he mentioned Tesla or something like that. And I'm like, damn, man, we so connected and we don't know it, that we will literally do similar shows the same night, and I have no idea that. Yeah, what you said, right?
Spirit teams.
Man.
This is why you go to the Rucker. You ain't got nobody with you, but you got next on the court. You got your picker who you want to play with you now.
That's a good example. That was a good example.
Hey, ain't nobody passing up the next, but you only gonna pick the one gonna keep you on the court the longest.
Right. Wow. Wow.
That's also a tribal leadership training program. Ball games, open game sports. You pick your team, I pick my team. From out of the ones that's here, that was a training program.
We talk
then
about
they started turning it into a money-making scheme and turned it into professional sports. None of those things was originally professional sports. They was all stuff that we did tribally to keep certain lessons being practiced in the community. That's a leadership lesson. Because you ain't gonna pick nobody on your team that's not gonna keep you on court. They got to be able to ball, but guess who else got to be able to ball to even get next?
Wow. we Rod, the show that I just did with you, B-Dale and RFG, we talked about sports and spirituality, and I was telling you about the whole point guard and all that. So it's interesting that you say that. Wow,
Yeah,
that is amazing, man. That is amazing. What I want to talk to you about, Rod, is in terms of the ether. The book talks about divine matrix, talks about, and I heard Bruce Lipton talk about this also, about how human emotions influence the DNA, could change the shape of the DNA.
programming.
Bruce Lipton was one of the pioneers. It's called epigenetics, epigenetic programming,
Yeah,
where because they say the environment influences the genetics, the DNA, but the thing that the environment that influences it is your perception. And the thing that influences from your perception is your emotional reaction. Your emotional reaction it goes back to your human emotion, right? So your human emotion influences your DNA. They did a test where your DNA influences the photon, influences photons. Photons is particles of light that matter is made of. So this matter is made of photons, particles of light. So your emotions influences the DNA that influences the matter. Now, in terms of ether's all in this thing. So talk to me about. They say that Greg Braden says that the language that this field, that many names, ether, quantum field, whatever you
same
divine.
language as computers.
Yeah, so check this out. They say computers is ones and zeros,
Binary
but
code.
binary code. But the ether understands the language of the emotions or the language of the heart. So the language,
Frequency.
yeah, frequency. So talk to me, because we're talking about manifestation, and we don't understand how important emotions is in this equation to manifest or bringing certain things into this reality. And it seems to be everything, Rod. Talk to me based
How
on what I
many
just.
times have you heard me tell you your emotions is your navigation system to
A
where
lot,
you going in your life?
a whole lot, a lot.
And this is why all that information you went on with Greg Braden, with the other guy, what's his name? Bruce Lipton.
Bruce Lipton, yeah.
Right. Now you got another guy named Thomas Campbell who came out with a book called My Big Toe, which means theory of everything.
I never
Right.
read that book. Okay. Yeah.
Oh man, that's a cold piece of work right there. It's gonna have you smiling through the whole book if you like to read.
Mhm.
But anyway, the sciences coming in from 3 different prime sources. Remember, Greg Braden started off on a journey in the East to determine if any of that stuff that they teach in the Far East was real, using scientific methods to either prove or disprove it. He ended up proving so much of it, he got converted. Right. Then you got Bruce Lipton. He's studying epigenetics and how do the cells get information to the individual. How do you know what information to act on at a biochemical level from the cells? Well, the cells is getting the information projected from the outside through what's called the membrane. Membrane mean microbrain or little brain. Meme meaning a small piece of something, and it's the smallest part of the brain, membrane. Then you have what's called your neurobrain, but you still got 2 other brains that you have to deal with. And one is your heart brain, and the other one is your bottomless pit brain, which is your intestinal tract. Right? It's a bottomless pit because everything that go through it don't come back up unless it's bad news. Right. So they telling you the story, all of these systems working together. Okay, now, if you step back and take your emotions out of it and say, how do God look at this invention and what was he making? Right. He made a Earth navigation rover that would be controlled from externally by remote radio broadcasts. And he have to be tuned in to a certain dial on his genetics, which comes in through his crystalline DNA, which is made up of the amino acids, which is microcrystals. So now they're using crystals to transfer the information from the membrane, and they're using the mitochondrial to charge it all up. right? Which takes us back to the matrix.
Mm.
Because the part of the mitochondrial where the energy is produced is called the matrix.
Right.
But what do the word matrix mean?
Mm-hmm.
The word matrix means divine mother or great mother. So when we talking about being in the divine mother, the great mother, we talking about being in her dark matter, her seminal fluids, her amniotic fluid for us to gestate in while we being created in creation during the creation period.
Right.
So then you wonder, why is it that the ether permeates through me, right, and is all around me? Because you in mama amniotic sac, surviving off of her etheric fluid. She's feeding you through her mitochondria, charging up each one of your cells to tell your body to do what's in your DNA program. The crystals from the DNA is projecting back out to the membrane, which collectively come together and form a whole field called an auric field. And from the auric field, all of the information downloaded through the matrix into the DNA crystals projects to something called the neural network. And that's why earlier I wanted to point out that when you showed that picture, those were brain cells, just same as they is afro curls. Right? Because now we're talking about the mycelium network of the human body. Being able to draw information from all parts of the body at one time. But if you don't use your right brain, it doesn't work. Your right brain then can correct the information and fine tune it through a part of the brain called the anterior gyrus, right? Which is tied to the silver cord of the great mother. Right? In the loves of the world are those things of gold that is tied to the heart through the great father. Right? And when you take your ascending energy and descending energy and you balance the two, right? Then you become the point of focus for the two to balance. You are the crosshairs in the scope.
Hey, Rod, Rod, real quick, why is the cord of the great mother silver? Why is it silver? Why silver?
The energy, the lunar energy is silver, and when you see it astrally, it's silver energy. When you see the father connection to his children, even if he don't have a relation, it's always gold.
Right.
So they tell you about the silver key and the gold key. Astrology. Excuse me. Need some drink.
Take your time, brother. Take your time. Shout out to everybody in the chat. We got about 3,200 people in the chat. We going in. Beautiful conversation. We're talking about the ether.
Astrology is when you're trying to develop the father mind, and it starts to cross over into astrology. Now you're starting to be introduced to the mother mind, because astrology and astronomy go together. Right? So the gold keys are to study astrology and astronomy, the stars. The silver keys is the reading of the tarot deck, which is oracle training tools for your right brain. The goal is to sync your left brain, father brain, with your right brain, so that you no longer in your wrong mind, but you in your whole mind. This is going back to being holistic in your approach. That's why you say don't take sides. They telling me Abraham's story. I wasn't there. I ain't never met this dude they calling Abraham. So how I'm going to argue with somebody whether Abraham did something or didn't, because I'm quite sure that everything he did in his life is not in that one little old book. It does not tell us where he pooped at. Nowhere in there has ever told us where anybody pooped at, except for King Saul when David cut his cloak. He shit in the cave. Other than that, there's nowhere where it's telling us how did they go about making a living. Which one of them was the Godfather and which of them was the Capadon? They don't tell us none of that. But we will argue you down that Jesus said something and they nail one of us seen it come out Jesus' mouth. We don't know what Jesus said. We know what they told us Jesus said, but we don't know what Jesus said. So the elders said, when you get past to that point, you stop reading it as words and stories and start reading what energy is this projecting. Why is it projecting my energy in this direction? And if it's directing my energy in this direction, why is it directing my energy away from that direction? Maybe I should look both ways before I cross this street. Right? Because somebody wants you to look at something a certain way. If they can't convince you to only see it how they see it, right, then you will only go along with what you won't go along with their program unless they can convince you that their program is better for you than your life purpose.
Man, wow.
Some people's life purpose align with the exploiter's ambition.
Yeah.
Right. But that's the control of that energy, that same ether energy, and how it's expressed in the world around us.
Rod, I told you I wanted to as we wind down. I think this might be the last question of the night. I told you that I was doing a documentary on the Black Sun. I want to ask you now, Rod, what is the connection between this ether energy and what we know as the Black Sun?
The Black Sun is really talking about the night sun, which was the moon of Saturn called Lilith. That's really what the Black Sun is. The Saturn energy is all to conceal the Lilith energy, which was the Dark Mother. The Dark Mother is always referenced in the ancient cults of the world. She's always talked about. In India, she's the Dark Mother Kali. And when you see her in the rage, that's the mother in her protective energy taking heads to protect her children. Right? When you see her in Kemet, she becomes Sekhmet when she's enraged. She's the Dark Mother. She takes on the protective nature of the cat. When you get another one in Egypt was the hippopotamus. Taweret, the Great Mother, the Dark Mother, the primordial goddess of creation, fiercely protective of her children. But when you see her in the Temple of Dendera on the roof, you notice that she has what looks to be a meat cleaver in her right hand, right? So all of these is tracing you back to that same energy and that same frequency.
Indeed. No, indeed, definitely. All right, so family, so I think we're gonna I'm trying to think. I think we're gonna wrap that up for tonight. Let me get to one question from the chat. All right, let me get to this question. Shout out to Jordan sent the super chat. The one question I'm gonna get to is from on Rod. I see somebody asked earlier in the super chat. Let me put Rod's Cash App up here. Hold up, yo. Give me a second. Rod Hayes, give me a second. No, that's the. Give me 1 second. Be patient, family. All right, let's put this up before we get to this last question. Let's put this on the. Where is? All right. If you want to support the brother Rod Hayes, for those who want to inquire, some of us remember it by now. The brother's been on the platform for about 2 years now. You can hit him up on the Cash App at $SikApe. It's capital SIK, capital APE. All right. But the one question I want to get to, shout out to Jordan for sending the super chat. He wants to know, Rod, you said they mixed the third dimension as an infinity loop. How does this correlate to life already being infinite? And what can we all do about it? We'll end the show with that, Rod.
Okay, so the infinity loop is really it's to stick you in a state where you can't really see what you're doing because you're living in two dimensions simultaneously.
Right.
Nature has to resolve that. So the resolution in nature, you are oscillating between dimensions, the same as when we talked about flux flow earlier, moving in and out of dimensions. When you sleep, you go live whole lifetimes sometime in one night. Sometimes people have 4 or 5 dreams that's over 12 hours long in the dream, but when you wake up, you only been asleep for a couple of hours. That's because you interdimensionally shifting and you fourth dimensional matrix as the dreamer, what we call the astral realm. The physical realm is the 3D where everything is believed to be solid. But when you get closer and closer with microscope, you find that nothing is connected. It's space between everything, even the most densest thing. The illusion of density comes in as the separation between things, right? So everything has what's called a physical form, and the physical form is a reflection of the astral form. In the current paradigm we in, there's no mythical beast of the world. Everything is humans and what we call base animals, right? But it was another era where we had unicorns, fairies, gnomes, trolls, and all that stuff. And a lot of those stories are legends, like the Skinwalker story is about the tribes that covered themselves in the skins of the local animal in order to go to war in stealth against their enemy, right? So we wear wolves, but they suck blood, werewolves and vampires. Talking about the people of the land versus the people that came. Characteristic difference defining the separation in the two. So when they opened up in the Atlantean era, at the end of Atlantis, what caused the collapse was they opened up a portal. The portal was between the third and the fourth dimension. In order to create a barrier, they blew a collider similar to the Hadron Collider in CERN, and they blew a nuclear explosion in there, which caused the third and the fourth to buckle like a slinky spring gets stuck. And that way that we could be in the right side up for so long, but then we in the upside down for so long. And this is what they call the Lucifer lens flip, when you're able to see the upside down when you're in the upside down, and you're able to see the right side up when you're in the right side up. Right, that's called the Lucifer lens, the ability to see fourth and third dimension for what it is instead of what you was told to think it is. Right, that's one of the prerequisites to activating all of your psychic abilities, is to be able to see clear in the dream and while you're awake, so that you'll know which state of condition you are in and which work you need to do. We needed to get out of the infinity loop, and we have to match up a redemption process, a redeemer, with an astrological event called a Muhurta. When the Muhurta come around, that is the keyhole that flips us out of the infinity loop. And that's how we got back on the track to the fifth dimension, by putting it into the public awareness of the Muhurta in sufficient amount of understanding to allow us to jump the infinity loop to get on track to the fifth dimensional matrix, which is going to unlock a lot of the disabilities and turn them into abilities. They call it X gene activation in the in comic books, and they call it that also in the scientific world, the X gene activation or the junk genes activation. They know it's coming, and they know it's predicated on the solar event, and they know that there's going to be a Schumann response, and they softly disclosing it. Yesterday, they had a hearing about ships and UFOs and in
Right.
DC.
Right.
Allegedly, I don't think nobody really there.
Mm.
I think it's
Mm.
all a stage show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
But
Mm.
I
Mm.
think we're gonna all be told about it, and it'll all be exposed coming up soon because too many things are converging at the same concept of closure.
Right. Right. Indeed.
And it's the disclosure is going to bring about the closure. My only concern is that people panic out of ignorance because nobody's been informing us enough on what's taking place so that we can prepare ourselves to not be in the way of the problem getting cleaned up and getting cleaned up with the problem.
Yeah. Mm.
That's what my biggest concern is right now.
Hey Rod, man, I want to thank you once again, man, for coming on the channel, coming on the show. Me and Rod, actually, we're gonna do a Patreon soon. Just been super busy, so I haven't been able to link up with Rod, but we're gonna do a Patreon within the next week. You know, we got this ESP series going, and I want to do a continuation from the last show about extrasensory perception and our ability to tap into that. So, for those of you who are on Patreon, stay tuned for that. Within the next week, I'm gonna hook up with Rob. We're gonna do something with the next week about ESP and extrasensory perception and tapping into that. And I feel as though that's
Hey,
one of the
yeah, I
most
was over here giggling to myself, brother Rich.
yeah,
A lot of people don't know that when you call me up on the phone, this same way this show goes is how we be talking.
same way. Same way. It be smooth like a bug. We just be chilling, vibing. We just, if we recorded them conversations, Rod, the internet would go crazy. They'd be like, "Oh shit, he was yo." It be Rod be dropping shit, man. We just be like, and I'll be absorbing it and like, yo, it's dope. It's dope, y'all. It's dope. So shout out to Rod. This is why I always tell you to make sure you support the brother. The brother put in so many years of. He gave us the cheat code. He put in 15 years of information condensed that we
More
could
like
learn.
30.
Yeah, and we're learning it in hours. We just have to apply it in the right manner. But the brother's a blessing to our community. Make sure you'll support him and what he's doing. Whenever the brother has anything coming up, I know the brother's gonna come out with books soon or whatever. So make sure you support the brother. With that being said, Rod, tell the people your Instagram, because I know that's how they could contact you. So they can hit
Well,
you
I
up.
haven't been posting on Instagram because I've been in Instagram jail, but my
Okay.
Instagram is SikApe, THGSIKAPE.
Yeah.
And my Facebook, where I've been posting, I went on a rant a little earlier today,
Okay.
is Rod Hayes. My profile picture and my background always changing depending on the message I'm giving. I post there is something different.
Right. Indeed. Hey, and I want to thank everybody. Thank to Jordan. Rod, you see my name at the bottom. I'm officially hey, it's Radiohead Rich now, Rod. It's official. I done graduated, man. Listen, shit. I'm in direct communication with my higher self. I'm
Hey,
getting these.
when Elijah came up with that term, we didn't have a common use term called telepathy.
Mm.
There
You
was
told me
in
that.
the
You told me that.
we didn't know there was no term called ESP.